Hey everyone, welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and today I have Sensei Randy Word, owner of Rising Sun Karate, with me, and I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome, Randy. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
I appreciate your time so much, and also I can't wait to get your perspective on everything that's happening right now.
Okay.
But we'll get to that. The first thing I wanted to ask you was, how old were you when you first got interested in martial arts, and how did that, when did you start training? And
Well, I have always had a fascination with martial arts just as a kid growing up, watching, the the original Karate Kid movies in the 80s, and then all the ninja movies that came out kind of in that early 80s. I actually started martial arts about 33 years ago. So, I was about 12, 13 years old.
Now you were living in Kentucky at the time, so I can't imagine they'd have a lot of studios or places to train in Kentucky.
Correct. They didn't. So I remember one day there was an ad in the newspaper. So martial arts instructor had moved to the area with the National Guard, and he was from I think he was from Tennessee originally. So he had moved to the area and he started teaching martial arts there at the National Guard Armory. So my mom saw an ad in the newspaper and signed me up.
The rest is history.
Exactly.
Did you always love it? I mean, were you always drawn to it, or did that kind of develop with time as you went higher and higher?
Yeah, no, I always had a natural niche for martial arts, and it's funny because I had used to compete myself as a competitor, and I was being interviewed probably when I was like 16, 17 years old for this regional sport karate magazine. And they had asked me what one of my goals were in martial arts, and it was to own a studio someday. So now fast forward, 20 some years, and it's kind of
prophetic.
Yeah, exactly. To see that kind of happen, it's kind of cool.
It's really interesting how we're kind of drawn and pulled in life and land exactly where we're meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like circumstantial at the time, like all the dots that need to connect.
Right.
For you to get from A to B, but man, it's been quite a journey for you, right?
Yeah, it has. It's been a good one. I can't complain.
Now you're in Stevenson Ranch, California.
Right, which is outside of Los Angeles.
And what year did you move to LA?
Ooh, I probably moved to Los Angeles in 2003.
And did you start? I know that you were training at Jet Gym.
Yeah, actually, when I first moved here, I was actually just teaching martial arts at another local studio in Sherman Oaks, and then I was introduced to the person who owned the studio that I own now, and he was getting ready to move, so I ended up buying the school from him around 2005. And then it was about then I started training at the Jet Gym with Benny the Jet Yukitis, and then my boxing coach for 15 plus years, Stan Ward.
Have you always been boxing in conjunction with the martial arts? Like when?
Yes, I started a little bit of boxing in my senior year in high school. I was living in a small town in Kentucky, and I was driving up to Louisville, Kentucky on the weekends for a little bit, trying to dabble in boxing. And so I've always been connected to boxing ever since I was a little kid, watching all the fights with my dad and whatnot.
Yeah. So you had a lot of cross training.
Yeah, a lot of cross training between martial arts and boxing.
And would you say that, so I'm just confused a little bit, was your coach Stan Ward at the gym, or was he?
Yes, so my boxing coach was a gentleman named Stan Ward. So he used to fight, was one of the top 10 heavyweights, kind of back in the golden era of boxing. Used to be George Foreman's sparring partner, Kenny Norton, Frazier sparring partner.
Legit.
So, yeah, he was legit. He was legit.
Wow, so you're training with like the best.
I think he was one of the best there is.
Was he a mentor for you, or?
Yeah, most definitely, and not just in boxing, just in life in general. So the philosophies of boxing and the philosophies of life are really the same.
Tell me a little bit more about that. I'm so curious. Like,
that's usually what I feel, the same struggles that you have when you're inside a boxing ring and you're sparring another opponent, like whatever struggles you are dealing with as far as your emotions, fear, doubt, all of those emotions are the exact same emotions that you deal with every day in life, right? So he used to always say, that you got to bob and weave life, right? Just like you got to bob and weave punches coming at you. So you find yourself, let's put it this way, boxing is a great psychological tool. It's the best therapy in the world because you learn more about yourself and the areas you need to improve on to make your life better.
you think it's a lot, I know it's very physical, but don't you think a lot of it's mental?
Oh, it's 100%.
Like the mental game?
Yeah, 100% mental. I mean, it is physical, don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
you got to have that mental drive to push yourself, physically, right? So it's more mental than anything else.
It really is like life, right? Because you have to have endurance.
Right, exactly.
You have to keep getting up.
You got to keep getting up. You got to know how to roll with the punches that life throws at you. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. You were able to work with him for so long.
Right. Yeah. No, it was great.
Yeah. And so tell me about how this opportunity came up for you to own the studio. Right.
I was introduced to the previous owner of this studio, and we just kind of hit it off.
Was it through the boxing gym or?
No, it wasn't through the boxing. Wasn't through the boxing gym at all. It was actually my next door neighbor when I first moved here to California. He had a kid that was training up in this studio. And at the time I was living in Granada Hills area, and I was teaching at a school in like I said, in Sherman Oaks. So he was like, oh, you've got to come up here and meet my son's instructor someday. So came up here, we introduced ourselves, we hit it off, and he was moving to Texas and was like, hey, do you want to purchase the business? So I said, sure, great. And it just
wow.
Yeah, just like the universe, like there was no planning. And
isn't it? It's so interesting to me how I think when you're in alignment, like when you're in alignment with your soul, and your life path,
right,
it seems almost like you're in this flow and you're in this zone. And so the opportunities, circumstances, people sort of line up for you when you're honoring that alignment,
No, exactly. I agree with you.
This sounds like a perfect example of that.
Right.
And the cool thing wasn't he the Red Ranger?
Yes, he was the original Green
Power Rangers.
Yeah, original Green Ranger, and then he
the
became
Green
White Ranger. Yeah, so he was one of the main Power Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, my kids were into that. Like,
oh yeah,
four in the 90s.
Right.
They're all over the Power Ranger thing. So cool. Do you still keep in touch? Does he still come out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. He came out here a couple of years ago and did a seminar in the dojo. So, we talk quite often on the phone and whatnot. And he still kind of mentors the business with me as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, we trade back and forth ideas.
That is awesome. So, Randy, when I first met you, it was 2013. You were bringing your first two students to their very first, for your dojo, national karate competition.
Yeah, it was in South Carolina.
South Carolina, in the little town I was living in, Greenville, 2013, 7 years ago. If you think back to that time, you were unknown. You had two students who were unknown.
Right.
And fast forward to where you are in just 7 short years, all that you guys have accomplished as a dojo and also just your students.
Right.
That's phenomenal.
I'm very grateful and humble.
Success internationally and locally, of course.
Right. Yeah.
I know so much of that.
Yeah, this last year we had four of our students on the U.S. National team.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, that was a big one for me. So I'm very.
Yeah. What was it like to, branch out into the national stage with your students, but then take it even next level and go international to.
It was a very surreal kind of experience, and it kind of just all happened so fast. I didn't even put much thought in it. It was just kind of one thing was snowballing right after the other, you know, and it actually probably wasn't until like a year or so after it happened and it was still happening that I kind of sat back and go, wow, this kind of came from nowhere. But again, I think it's like you said, if you line up with your kind of path in life, then all the doors and opportunities kind of open up effortlessly almost.
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously there's a tremendous amount of dedication and training on both your part and your students.
Right, exactly. And my students' parents. As
Right.
well.
Let's not forget them. They're the
Not
key,
forget
right?
them.
They get them there, they finance it, they support their journey. And
Right.
I wanted to ask you, what, you know, as a teacher and a mentor to these young kids, what are the things or the values you're wanting to instill through, you know,
Good question.
classes, through your philosophy, your life philosophy, because I know that translates in.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of it is just starts with maybe the determination and perseverance to, you know, set a goal and no matter what, give it 100% effort. And to accomplishing that goals. And at the end of the day, it's not necessarily whether you accomplish the goal. It's about have you put that 100% effort in. And if you have, then the things you have learned from that is the goal, right? That will take the things you walk away from.
I think it's so important just to keep showing up.
Right, exactly.
You know, like that refusal to give up on yourself.
Right, exactly. Because that at the end of the day, no matter if it's boxing, karate, or whatever it is in life, it's not giving up on yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What have you learned from your students? Because I know, you know, even as a parent, right? Whenever
Right.
you're in a teacher-student role or a parent-child relationship, man, I find like I've learned so much from my kids.
I find that what I'm trying to teach them, I'm also learning the same thing from them. It's kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they teach me just as much as I teach them.
I feel like I've just been 100% a student of them, my kids, and also of life.
Right.
You know, and you know what I really had to lose is my ego.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing.
Like I had to really understand that, you know, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And
until you know it.
Right. Until you know it. And then you're like,
oh. You know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah. But I found like as I go on my journey, like the more I expand and the more I step into my lane, there's another level to master of myself.
Oh yeah, you're in constant improvement of yourself, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even I would think, even as you go through the ranks and you're getting different levels of mastery in karate, or you're getting your different colored belts, what is the learning's probably eternal, right? You can always.
Yeah, it's definitely internal, and then you realize like there's at the end of the day, it all comes back to your basics and your fundamentals, right? So you spend a lifetime trying to perfect the most simplest moves in martial arts. And so that's where the dedication has to come in and the perseverance. But that's also kind of life, right? We spend.
The foundation is so important. Or you're a house of cards, right? If you're not building a strong physical, emotional, mental foundation. I think
exactly.
People don't realize the importance of that because they want to be the best and they want to go to the top quickly.
Right.
It's human nature, right? We just want to skip all this and like get there.
Get right to the next point.
But there's a gift in that, staying in that and really building strong foundational structures.
Right. And I don't think you realize that until you've tried to get to the top, and then you realize I know that's the full circle of martial arts, I think. I think as starting out as a white belt in martial arts, you're always practicing the basics in the, as the beginner belt levels. And your only goal is to like get to black belt, right? I want to learn all of these cool moves and all of these fancy katas. But once you get to that level, you realize as a black belt, okay, you got to go back to the fundamentals. You got to go back to the basics, and that is what makes you excel as an athlete.
It's like an eternal quest.
Right.
Like you're never there.
You never will be there, but it's that constant quest of perfection, right? That determination to get there.
Now, if you had to go back and tell your 20-year-old self something, give yourself some advice, what do you think it would be?
I would definitely say maybe trust my instincts a little more, right? And I think that's kind of one thing that kind of helped me as a coach is I didn't quite realize my potential at the moment of an athlete that I could have been. So I think that helps me push my own students better. So I think in hindsight, I would like to go back and kind of have realized my own potential as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
I think our relationship too and definition of success changes too as we get older.
Yes, that it does.
Right? Because you're chasing, when you're young and hungry, you're chasing that, like you said, that title or that black belt or whatever it is, right? That shows that you made it. But then over your lifetime and as we evolve and learn and grow, maybe your motivation is different.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, maybe it was who you became through the journey.
Who you became through the journey, and in my case too, it's just a much more simple life. So again, that's kind of like going back to the basics, right? Like
how we like circle back around, right?
Exactly.
You're like,
to do that, that's when you mentioned ego. You have to let go of the ego to kind of get back to that simple place in life of where you're truly happy.
Yeah, I think that is such an important thing. You have to be in alignment and happy with yourself in order to bring that forth and shine even brighter.
Yeah, and that's just part of, you've got to change that subconscious thought that's in your brain, that thought that's telling you you're not good enough, and
that's a huge one. So many people, even very successful people, have those same childhood fears. I really believe they start in childhood.
I totally agree. After teaching martial arts my whole life, it seems like everything that we are as adults have been programmed as into us as child, either from our parents, from society,
our culture.
Teachers. Exactly.
Yeah. What's so interesting too is how something really damaging, it could have been like an off-the-cuff comment, or a teacher said something to a child, and they hold on to that, and it impacts their entire life.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I can remember some of the things my teachers told me as a kid, and of all the things, it's always the kind of negative comments, right, that stick with you the most. Those are the ones you remember.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage people to hold on to the positive. Right? Because we always dismiss the positive and attach to that negative story. And what an opportunity you have to create impact on all these kids who come through the dojo.
Right. That's kind of what keeps me going, I think.
Yeah. To keep it positive.
Right.
To encourage them.
Especially at this time, right? Like right now in this moment, if we can keep the, positivity, the compassion, the empathy.
Love.
Yes, love. If we can teach that, then instead of the negativity, then I think we can change.
And also not just through words, but just through how we're showing up in life.
Exactly, through actions. I mean, that's really
modeling,
change, right?
Be the change, right?
Exactly.
So I love.
Oh,
here's my picture. Tao of the Squirrel.
Right.
Randy is an artist, and he started Tao of the Squirrel which you
Yep.
can follow on Instagram. I don't know if you have a Facebook page.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page as well.
And
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about how that came about.
So that kind of came about one day. I was just driving down the road, and my wife, who Robin, we always joke back and forth, and she was like, "You're just like a squirrel, you're all over the place." And I am. My mind goes, thousands of miles a minute.
Right.
And literally driving down the road one day, and I just go, "Huh? So I'm Randy the squirrel." And then all of a sudden all this stuff came to me.
Okay, these downloads of wisdom, these nuggets.
Yeah, so just all these words of wisdom, and it's so funny because every picture that I've drawn, those words of wisdom, I mean, they're for me. I mean, those are like what I need to hear at that moment in my life, right? Yeah,
and but they're like, you're channeling your inner squirrel.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's the whole thing. So yeah, that's just me with my kind of words of wisdom to get me through my life, and hopefully it's helping.
I hope you put all of that together in a little book or something, like Tao of the Squirrel. I think that would be such a
Yeah, I'm definitely working on that. I'm working on you kind of like cards, like birthday cards.
That would be awesome.
Working on a kid's book. As well, where kind of he gives his words of wisdom to help other people.
Because they are so simple, but there's so many truths.
Right, exactly. I think I'm glad you like it, but that's my whole goal.
I'm a big fan. I'm your #1 fan.
I know. But yeah, so I think you're going to see more things with Randy the Squirrel in the future. You're going to see hopefully calendars, some books.
I hope so. I hope to see you branch out. That'd be amazing, and you'd reach so many people. We're in such an interesting time right now, and I feel like a lot of people are really searching. And it's hard because, in general, people tend to search externally for answers.
Right.
But this is a time really when people are being encouraged to really start to turn the lens inward.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like being present to what's coming up for them right now in this uncertain time. There's a lot of change happening globally in every aspect of our lives, how we're working.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a big shift or happening, actually.
Yeah, how have you adapted? I know that obviously kids haven't been able to come train with you in the dojo.
So we actually kind of got ahead of it right when this first started. We we got word that we had to close our doors, I think, on a Monday. And by, that same week, we were already in the process of starting Zoom classes and just finding a way to kind of, keep the business going. And it turned out great. I mean, very fortunate because, again, like you said earlier, parents want their kids to stay with structure, keep them structured.
Right.
So it's just a way to stay connected. And some of the Zoom classes have kind of been my favorite classes I've ever taught.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't see these kids now in person.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I feel like I'm hopefully kind of their excitement for that day, but they're definitely my excitement for that day.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, I think kids, they're all a lot of them have been stuck at home for months, so they need that physical outlet and something to, work them out.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll do contests every week. Like we'll do, I just actually right before our call, I dropped off a dozen donuts to one of our students.
Awesome.
Who won a contest last week. So we kind of keep things exciting, like we'll do art contests as well. And then,
that's so cool.
So it's a lot of fun. It's definitely kind of got us engaged with our students, even on a deeper level.
That is really cool. I know the parents appreciate it and feel like they're not losing something, but they're gaining something through it.
Right.
Which is the whole point. Now, I wanted to ask you about this because I was so curious. What inspired you to become vegan?
That's a long journey there. I actually
got time.
Vegan maybe 5 years ago for about 90 days. And back then it was just kind of, I don't want to make an excuse for it, but it's kind of really hard back then because, you know, you go into the grocery store and there would be like, you know, one little shelf in the freezer for vegan options, and that was about it. So again, I was kind of about 90 days doing that. And
But what sparked it? Like, what made you think, I'm not just vegetarian, but I want to go all the way?
So at that moment, I think one of my golden retrievers had passed away. So I kind of got to the point where when I saw an animal, I saw, you know, my dog, right? And that was kind of, well, I wouldn't want to eat my dog. Why would I want to, you know, eat this animal? You know, but again, that kind of lasted for about 90 days. And then fast forward like 2 years later, I kind of had the epiphany again, and I've been vegan now for, my goodness, over 2 years. I don't even know now. So over 2 years with no meat, cheese, milk, or eggs.
Is Robin vegan?
She has really kind of leaned towards veganism in the last 3 months. It's weird.
Wow.
The pandemic started, yeah. So she's probably about 90. I would say 90.
Wow.
Yeah, 97% vegan right now.
Okay. Well, I have to tell you, there's this, one of my favorite ice creams at Whole Foods is a vegan ice cream called Farm to Spoon. Have you tried it?
Oh, I haven't tried that one yet.
Dude, it's so good.
Farm to Spoon, okay.
Farm to Spoon at Whole Foods. It doesn't have that creamy texture, right? Because it doesn't have like milk and, you know, it doesn't have that creamy texture, but it's really delicious.
Okay, I'll have to add that one.
The chocolate's my favorite, but yeah, I was really surprised. You know, I'm not vegan, but it grabbed my attention and it was delicious. So there's your tip for the day.
And I think that's what makes it so much easier now, as opposed to it was 3 years ago or so, or 4 years ago when I tried, is there's so many different options right now, you know, with Impossible Burgers, the Beyond Burger.
Totally.
Yeah, so that is definitely, again, we're talking about shifts in consciousness. That's definitely a shift in consciousness that this world has made over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think also, you know, this is from a spiritual perspective. We are kind of shifting, I feel, as humans. We're holding more light, we're anchoring more light, and we're becoming more like body. Whereas before we were very dense and more carbon-based, you know. So as we hold more light, I think diets are shifting, and it's kind of organic. Like people tend to really be guided more towards this.
Right. Yeah. You just have to kind of wake up, you know, and kind of see what's actually happening out there to, you know, these animals and the ones that are, you know, in these slaughterhouses. And I think once you kind of step back from society, again, society's good at like flashing you with advertisements that, you know, milk does the body good and you got to have your protein. So we're kind of ingrained in this system.
You know, there's a lot of subliminal programming that comes through marketing.
Oh, no. Well, no
not
doubt.
just like about, you know, food, but also our mindset, fear.
Right.
A lot of fear programming, especially recently with the pandemic. If I just stopped watching the news. It was just 24/7, just like an IV drip of fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Fear.
And that plays into your subconscious.
It does. And we have to be so mindful about choosing what we want to invite in.
Right.
You know, whether it's, you know, like the foods we're talking about, or the media, or the people that we hang out with, or, you know, we get to choose, right, what we're going to invite into our field. Is it going to elevate us, or is it going to pull us down?
Right, exactly.
So, I don't think people realize that it's a choice. Like, you can go turn it off, you know.
Yeah, it is a choice, but I mean, it's so hard to, right? Because you have been
everywhere
for years a certain way, and to kind of to open yourself up to something new. I mean, you know, it's scary. So
it's like deep programming, but I think ultimately we have to follow our inner compass.
Right.
Because we're all being guided where we need to be. And it's not always about conformity. Like we're not supposed to fit in a box. We're all supposed to be in our own lane, bringing our own gifts and talents and light and whatever it is to the world. And you can't do that if you're locked in a box.
Yeah, you can't do that if you're ultimately connected either. I think you have to kind of just step away from everything, and you really have to just kind of sit with yourself, like in silence.
Yes.
How do you need distractions? I mean, you've got to kind of live that.
And that's what this has created is that space.
Right.
Because people are
space, but it's also created the opposite as well. I mean, because you've got people now that's probably even more connected, either with social media or Zoom, or they're more connected now than they were even before, right? Because now they're working online, so they're communicating online, they're getting their news online.
I think what you said, Randy, is really important, that we need to step back. Like it's important to shift the lens sometimes, and in order to do that, we need to kind of remove ourselves emotionally a little bit and step back and just kind of become observers.
Yeah, exactly.
For a little bit, because so many people right now are so into all of these issues coming up, not just the pandemic, but recently, the very sad murder of this gentleman who actually was from Houston, Texas.
Oh, wow.
So that's one ward over. We call them wards instead of cities. He's from the 3rd ward.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think a lot of these things are being triggered for growth and to get people to come together in unity, compassion, and love.
Right. I mean, that's the only way we can succeed as a society, right? Mm-hmm. If we all come together.
Yeah, and sometimes these very tragic and difficult unfoldings of events are there to shine a light for us to realize that these injustices and these, as we say, programs are so outdated and don't serve us anymore. So sometimes those things shine a light on something so that maybe we can affect change in some way. And I don't know how you feel, but I feel like the best way we can do that is to show up as our highest and best selves and be the beacon and light for the world.
Of course. That's the only way.
Yeah. A lot of people go the other way towards violence, and everybody shows their voice and power in a different way, I guess.
Right. No, they do, for sure.
So tell me a little bit about what it was like for you to be invited to be a junior national karate coach. What an honor that must have been.
Yeah, no, it was great. I was kind of shocked right off the bat, because I mean, there's some of the best coaches in the country are part of the U.S. karate team. So I was very fortunate that they asked me, and it's great. Our junior team has about 90 some athletes from all over the country, and like this past August, we just came back from the Junior Pan Ams in Ecuador. So as a U.S. team, we've been meeting together and doing Zoom training with.
Oh, cool! So that hasn't stopped. That continues.
Yeah. So the U.S. team's still been coming together, still training, always preparing for the next goal, right?
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's a humble experience to be able to kind of be part of something so big.
Yes. How exciting! And you're probably meeting phenomenal athletes.
Phenomenal athletes.
Like your circle is growing.
Exactly. So just phenomenal people from all over the world, different countries, everything.
Yeah. Do they tend to be the same athletes that are coming year after year?
Occasionally.
I don't know.
Occasionally, but you'll get a new group of faces every so often as well, especially in the 12 to 13-year-old range, because that's the first year you're allowed to try out for the junior team. So it's fun to see, someone at 12 to 13 make the team for the first time, and then you're still seeing them at 17, 16, 17, and 18, still on the U.S. team.
The growth must be so phenomenal to witness.
Right. No, it definitely is.
To see them come through. They're already so good.
Right.
And is that based on rankings? Is that how you get placed on the team, or is it an invitation?
So you have to compete in the U.S. team trials. So they do the U.S. team trials every July. Unfortunately, this year the U.S. team trials have been canceled. So we're still kind of waiting to hear what's going to happen with that. But yeah, you have to compete at the nationals, and you've got to either take gold or silver at the U.S. nationals to become the #1 seed and then the #2 seed on the U.S. team.
That must have been exciting for you to have some of your own personal students make it to that level.
Yeah, it really was. Like I said, this year we've always had at least 1 or 2 that make the U.S. team, but this year we actually had 4 that made the U.S. team. So it was.
That is so exciting.
It was great.
So what are they doing? Are they kind of just pushing everything back, like the timeline back? Like maybe nationals will be held later, and then.
Yeah, you know what? As far as I know, it's still kind of up in the air what they're going to do. They may try to move nationals. I mean, this year it was supposed to be in Spokane, Washington, in July, so they may postpone it, or they may just skip it altogether.
It's so tough if they skip it, because there are those athletes that were just ready, right, to come.
Right. Oh yeah.
And to train so hard and be so disciplined, and then to have that kind of dream, that rug pulled out from under you would be so hard.
Yeah, it's tough. I had some students who were trying for the team this year for the first time, but you just got to look at that as an opportunity to get even better, get even stronger, and just realize the big picture, that it's more than just one tournament, right? I mean,
that's hard when you're a kid.
It's hard when you're
as an adult. You can understand.
It's hard as an adult too, but
right. Well, right, when you're seeing your students primed and ready, and then step back and have to train a little bit longer and just kind of see what happens, right?
Yeah, but they're going to learn a valuable lesson from it. So that's.
You know what I found, Randy? I found that every defeat for me in life, every challenge, was where the biggest growth came. It wasn't from doing well. It wasn't from what people would label as success. It wasn't from anything glossy. It was from all that shit and
all
dark, heavy stuff
back up
that I had to just get through somehow to level up to the next level. I kind of look at it like, I'm always trying to work on myself, and I know you as well, and your students as well. And I've always found that it's so easy to compare ourselves, because we're kind of programmed to always look left and right and always want what that other person has. But we all come in with these really specific lessons to learn and these gifts to bring to the table. And we need to really honor and love ourselves to get to that.
I agree 100%. You got to love yourself before you can love others, right?
And it's such a journey to get. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? I don't know.
It's really, at the end of the day, when you think about it, it shouldn't be that hard. I just think it's all the programming being thrown at us.
We kind of get in our own way.
Right.
It's because so much of it is mental. It's all mental, really. All the obstacles are all mental. It's all ego, right?
Right, exactly. You can take any obstacle and look at it as a negative or a positive, right?
Yeah. It must be really cool to see some of your kids. It's kind of like they come in and to see them step into their own and shift and change as they grow with you and your program.
Right. And then
really rewarding.
And it's even great to see, like, after their journey here is over and then they go off to college, to see them come back and see how much they've grown and changed.
Yeah.
That's a really cool experience.
Yeah.
I'm sure every teacher feels. It doesn't matter. Arts teacher, school teacher, dance teacher. It's great to see that change.
It must feel so good to know that you provided, because these are skills and mindsets that will serve them their entire lives.
Right, and that's why any teacher, that's why they're so important, is that they actually can shape how a child, grows up. So it's, you got to make sure you can either it's a lot of power. So it can either be a positive thing or a negative thing.
Yeah, I really want to honor you for all of the great work you've done all these years. Think of the hundreds of kids who've come through your dojo.
Thank you.
The
Yeah,
impact is,
very fortunate.
you can't even measure it. It's so huge. So
Right.
thank you for doing the work that you do, and
Thank you.
bringing your light to the world.
Right.
It's great. It's so awesome to see you having that kind of influence. And also your teachers are also students, right? That help.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all students. We're all trying to figure it out. None of us have the answers, really, right?
Yeah, that's
always searching for the answer.
You're
I mean,
absolutely,
but we're always learning every day.
absolutely true. So I'm hoping that you guys can get back on track soon and get your doors open. You said you're going to hear soon whether you guys.
I'm hoping we'll hear something this week. Yeah. So.
But I'm sure the parents are waiting with bated breath to be able to drop their children off somewhere for an hour.
Right.
But do you have any words of wisdom before we go on maybe things that have something that's kind of helped you in dark times or?
I mean, I think I've been trying recently myself just to script a lot. And if I had to give any advice for anyone, it would be scripting, and that's the kind of write down your affirmations, I am your I ams, right?
Yes, powerful.
It's very powerful. So I'm trying to do that every night before I go to bed and every morning as soon as I wake up. And I'm just, especially during this time, right?
Yes.
And it's trying to
Yes.
Just be positive, be kind, be nice, have empathy, and that would be kind of my words of advice. Just
that's awesome.
Step back and have empathy for everything, even if it's something that you disagree with.
Yes.
And this person over here is so angry, and you might judge them as being evil. Still try to have empathy because something has happened that has made them see the world that way, right?
Yes.
So that would be my words of advice. Just step back, stay calm, have empathy for everyone, and try to see where they're coming from.
Yes.
And then don't judge it as good or bad. Just see where they're coming from, acknowledge it, and then move on. Right.
I think also we have to realize that everybody's traveling their own path.
Right.
And they have their own demons and their own struggles and their own filters.
Exactly.
That they're responding to life through. And it seems to me like the more violent or the more horrific and shocking the behavior is, it's a direct reflection to the kind of trauma and wounding that they've experienced in this lifetime. So yeah, it's difficult for people to observe something that's shocking and traumatic and have empathy, but we really, I agree, have to kind of hold space and allow everybody to feel what they feel and to show up.
That's what I say. Whatever you think at that moment is correct, right? So it's kind of like, you've got to go through your stuff. I've got to go through my stuff. I'm going to try not judge you. And then hopefully at the end of the day, we all come back to that center of peace, love, empathy.
Absolutely. Randy, every year I work on something, and one year I picked judgment. You know that it took years. Like I didn't know how judgmental I was till I picked judgment. I'm like, damn, I judge everybody.
Years to work on.
years, to get to a place of neutrality and acceptance. I thought it was going to be a 1 year thing. No, it was like.
No, it's a constant.
It keeps showing up,
Progress. Yeah.
And I think it's really powerful if we can get to that place of acceptance. And really, all we have control over ultimately in this life is ourselves.
Right, exactly. Ourselves.
And how we're going to show up in life, how we're going to respond. That's what we have 100% control over.
Right, and that comes just from mindfulness, to be aware, because we all slip, right? We all get that kind of rage or that negativity or that judgment, and it's just being able to to get to that point where you can recognize that you're there, then bring it back down a little bit. And I mean, that's the only way to improve, I think. And to do that, you've got to be, like I say, extremely mindful of yourself.
The awareness piece is really the first part.
Right.
To change and evolution, that just having awareness is such a key element to it, because without awareness, then you're not going to pay attention to it at all, right?
Right, exactly.
So it's been really interesting to just observe everything. And what's so incredible to me is that we're in this experience globally. You know,
one is,
that's really powerful. Like, there's something going on here.
Definitely. Like we said, there's definitely a shift in consciousness, and I think it's definitely going to be for the greater good. I mean, Absolutely. It has to happen.
I believe it. I believe it too. Well, thank you so much. Don't click off when I get off, because I still want to talk to you for a minute. But to my audience, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you guys. And Randy, thank you so much for being a guest. I'm so grateful for your time. I know you're a busy man, so
thank you.
Thank you for showing up. And to all of you, be kind to yourselves, extend grace, and keep showing up with love, because the world needs y'all. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.